Hey guys, Aiden here. So I've wanted to try a sit-stand desk for a while, and initially I tried it by stacking boxes so that I could get both the monitor and keyboard raised to an appropriate height. However, due to the little bit ghetto nature of this solution and some of the issues which I encountered with it, I wanted to look for a more elegant solution. So I started looking around and looked at what options there were for a sit-stand desk without spending lots of money. So the option I chose was one that not only allowed me to sit or stand, but also allowed a lot more monitor flexibility, and was something which I already wanted even before I thought of a sit-stand desk solution. So I chose to pick up the Ergotech Freedom Arm, and in the wall mountable variant, so that I could choose where to position it. So today I'll be taking a look at that, and how it's worked out for me. So while the Ergotech Freedom Arm had been covered pretty well by big channels like Hardware Canucks, the wall mountable variant had got very little coverage, and also I hadn't seen anyone use it for a sit-stand desk or report on that. So firstly I'll take a look at the installation of the arm, and then I'll look at things like the actual arm itself and what it supplies, and of course things like build quality, and then at the end I'll talk about how it works in the sit-stand desk and if I think it makes a good option for that. So when you start to assemble the arm, the first thing to look at is the manual. I found that while the manual is pretty small, it's pretty comprehensive and it illustrates the pretty simple assembly well. There is one section in the instructions which I would have liked to be a bit clearer, which I'll show a bit later on. So you have two main sections, the arm and the wall mount. The arm is the same as the non-wall mountable variant, and the base has a strong resemblance to its desk counterpart as well. In the package you have a fair few screws and parts, as well as an Allen key and a tightening wrench for the arm. It has two sets of spacers for attaching the monitor with a VESA mount, and some drywall anchors for walls where those are needed, which is a nice inclusion. Attaching the wall mount is a simple and well explained process, and it was easy to drill the holes and mount the arm in. However, the holes that they are using and the type of mounting screws are quite large, and many people might not have the right bit to use for their tools, so mounting it can be a bit difficult if you don't have that. It would have been nice to see Ergotech include the correct drill bits for this, as they aren't that standard. Once you have the wall mount all secured, you can move on to the arm itself. While it seemed easy enough, I had some trouble securing the main arm to the actual wall mount. The inner ring to mount the arm isn't that simple, as you have to slot in a small kind of eyelet type ring into the plastic ring and line up the slot in the inner ring correctly. This is pretty confusing as the instructions didn't depict this very clearly, and when you slot it on, it has actually a little kind of gap and it's hard to line that up and a bit difficult to keep it all together, and the troubles with this part didn't even stop there. When you go to slide the arm onto the wall mount with the inner piece, it's a really tight fit. As in so tight that I couldn't get mine to fully slide onto the wall mount, so it's positioned pretty near the top. This isn't that bad, but it was a little bit confusing and a pretty difficult process to put it on at times, and I wouldn't want to be removing it that often. I have to say though, it does stay on there very well, and there hasn't been any point in time where I was doubting if the arm would hold or stay on the wall mount. So the installation was pretty fluid, just a few of those little hiccups, and if they were ironed out, it could really make the installation simple and nice. So now I'll take a bit of a look at the arm and how it supports the monitor. So the arm's construction is really solid. It has a bit of weight, but I would feel confident letting this support even very large monitors, as it supports my 27-inch Dell U2711, which is by no means a small monitor, very well. It uses a VESA mount at the back, and while the plate is quite large, so it didn't quite fit into the cutout part for the VESA mount on my monitor, they include many spaces so it allows it to sit well, and I'm pretty confident in the very secure connection. The arm has a tension adjustment on the bottom, which allows you to adjust how stiff you want the arm and how much force would be needed to move the monitor around. I found that even though I have a very heavy monitor, the arm can tighten well enough and it can support the monitor in pretty much any position,
and adjust easily at the same time. If you have a very light or a very heavy monitor, you might want to check the specs however, as if it's too light it will spring to the top, and if it's too heavy the arm might not be able to hold it. I found that most standard monitors work pretty well though, and the tightening system is pretty solid. The arm has various removable cable management points, which are a nice inclusion, even if I don't use them as I'm running my cables downwards to the desk. The arm features an advertised range of about 35 cm of height adjustment, but in reality I've found that it's really closer to 20 to 25 cm. It also roughly features about 100 to 120 cm of horizontal adjustment, so the monitor has lots of side to side movement. The arm has a full 360-degree rotation for the monitor, with the back face mount being able to spin, and the two sections of the arm can move independently to a certain extent. The arm is flexible and easily movable, while not shaking around when accidentally bumped or sliding around when you don't want it to.
So with all of that out of the way, what's it actually like using the arm, and how does it function for the sit-stand desk setup? So I've had quite a good experience using this monitor setup in the sit-stand configuration. However, there have been a couple of little bit rough patches with it, and some things which I really would have liked to see. So, as you might have noticed, when I'm in the sitting configuration, the monitor is quite high, and to counter that it's also slanted so that I can see it better. Now, I've quite liked actually having the monitor at this angle and a bit higher, and I've found it quite natural, but for some people that just won't appeal to them and they'll really dislike that and want it in the regular position. So the reason why it's like this is for the monitor to get high enough that I can actually stand with it, it has to be mounted fairly high up, which means it can't actually adjust low enough to be at the regular position, and as such is in this configuration. So while I like it and it works well with my IPS monitor with good viewing angles, for someone who either prefers the more regular position of a monitor kind of straight in front of you at right there instead of having it up a little bit higher, or someone who has a TN monitor with bad viewing angles, this kind of might not work for you and is definitely something you should take into consideration. Now this also depends on your height. If you're shorter, you will not need it as high up, and as such the lowest height will also be lower, and as such maybe a bit more natural to you. So check how much height you need for the monitor and how much range the arm has. Now when it's at the full height, the arm can fully support the monitor, and I found it to be pretty good having it at this. When it's all the way up, I found that I haven't had any issues with it and it's worked really well. The only thing is you'll have to make your own or build your own keyboard stand, which I've done, which is not perfect by any means, but it works well enough. Now you also notice there are cables running down the monitor here, so you will have to hide them or manage them in some way, and it won't look as neat as if you were using a monitor stand which hid all the cables away. So something to note, and if you're wanting to go for the cleaner setup, you're either going to have to not use an arm that's floating like this, put a hole in your wall, which I wouldn't really recommend for mounting the cables through, or just get something like a cable trunk or something like that, which just hides it and makes them blend in a bit better. It can be done, it just needs a little bit more effort and time. So I found it's not perfect by any means having it in the sit-stand configuration. The arm works pretty well, but it's definitely a scenario situation where it will work for some people, but it definitely won't work for others. So you really have to consider whether you want to make the trade-off of having it in this type of setup where it's facing down, or if you're wanting it in the more natural or rather common position of it just sitting in front of you. So it would have been nice to see more range of height adjustment, because you have to take that into consideration that if you're using it for this, you want as much height adjustment, and this arm's good for that, but it still definitely lacks it. But there are some other compelling features of having an arm like this besides just having, say, a slot in or something like some other solution, and some of it is that you can adjust it side to side and move it out and around as well. So for instance, when I'm sitting on my bed, if I want to watch say a movie or a TV show or anything like that, I can actually move the monitor out and position it so that I can see it from my bed more clearly. I can also rotate the monitor into portrait if I'm reading something or really doing anything that requires that, say coding. Not that I really do much of that, but anything that requires that type of format, it's really handy to be able to rotate the monitor easily, and you can adjust it a lot to whatever position. If you're wanting to show someone, you can just pull it out a bit and move it around. So even if you're not making it stand a lot of times, or you're not putting it way up, there's so much flexibility which this monitor stand offers. The build quality is great, and it's just so flexible. There's so much you can do, so much you can change, and it really gives a whole lot more considering just how limited a regular monitor stand is, and it just gives a much wider range of options. And really that's what this comes down to in a lot of cases: freedom and options. So if you want to go into a standing position, you can do that. You can go to sitting, you can swivel it around, move it around, and it's got so many options for what you can do, and really unlimited possibilities as such. The arm's well constructed, it fits well on the wall, and while there's some movement restrictions which come with the arm, and it doesn't have quite as much height adjustment as I would like, and it doesn't position quite as well as I would have liked to see, it's pretty good. There's heaps of flexibility, and really if you're looking for just a basic flexible monitor arm which can mount on a wall, I would have no problem recommending this. It really is great, and I've really enjoyed it. If you're looking for a sit-stand desk, if you're wanting to pay a lot more and you're not worried about money, getting a desk which can adjust with it is probably a better solution, truthfully. It's a lot more elegant, a lot less cable running, and it's just a lot easier. There are lots of options like that, but for me, this works a lot better, and I imagine for a lot of people, having a monitor which can go into that and move between them might be a lot more appealing than stacking it on top of something, or really anything else, as there aren't a whole lot of options. So for a kind of $100 price point, this means that not only do you get amazing monitor flexibility that a lot of people would pay anyway just for the regular thing, but with that you also get the ability to go into a sit-stand desk, and it makes a pretty affordable option, and one which I've found that I really like. So in essence, it definitely has its drawbacks, but I really think that it is a solid option and definitely one to consider. So thanks for watching, guys. Feel free to like or dislike. Also, if you enjoyed the content, feel free to subscribe to see more. And if you want to interact with me, either leave a comment in the YouTube comments or hit me up on Twitter. So, thanks for watching everyone, and I'll see you in the next one.